Hi, I'm Dr. Margaret Pericak-Vance, Director of the Hussman Institute for Human Genomics at the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine.
Dr. Vance, I want to ask this question of you. Why is your work so important to this field?
Well, our work is important to the field because it involves inclusivity and diversity. As you know, we do genomics research, genetic research, and the overall goal is to find new targets. And when you're looking for new targets and you want to be able to eventually develop therapies, you want it to everyone to benefit. And there are differences depending on people's ancestral background, et cetera, and we know there are these differences, and therefore we want to be able to target all individuals in terms of being able to develop therapies.
Thank you. And I'd like to ask my next person here to also share as well and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jeff Vance. I'm a professor of genetics and neurology at the University of Miami. And I would add to that, it's not just in being inclusive of the population, but people need to understand that their participation in diversity is very important to understanding Alzheimer's. We have several projects where there are differences between ancestries and how in the risk of different genetic markers. And by looking at different populations and diverse populations, we've actually identified at least two areas that are protective in African Americans and African ancestry for lower your risk for Alzheimer's that we don't see in other populations. And so we can use this for everyone to work towards therapies. So it's not just being involved in the future, but it's also being involved right now. You can help because kind of looking, it's like the old saying, all roads lead to Rome. Here, if we, different ancestries start at different places, and so if we can understand those places, then we really get a head start.
Thank you for that. That's you put that so eloquently. So I also want to introduce Dr. Larry Adams, and I know that Dr. Adams does work in the community. So I want to also ask Dr. Adams, one, to introduce yourself and to talk about why the community is so important in clinical trials and research, particularly the Black and Hispanic communities.
How are you? My name is Larry Adams. I'm the Director of Research Support at the University of Miami, and that's such a great question. So often in these communities, I would just say the access to information like this is so limited. And so the fact that we're able to not only create this information and help change the medical field, we're able to disseminate that information to the communities that it'll benefit the most. So often we have all of these great opportunities to participate in research, and these communities who could benefit the most have no idea that they exist. And so we have a great team that's dedicated to going out and finding areas that we can bring people to, or areas that we can go to meet the community, to explain this research and explain why these opportunities are so important. As he mentioned, the representation of these different backgrounds are so important because we don't want to do the one shoe fits all approach. We want to be able to bring what's important or what's specific to that particular group or ancestral background, so it'll work for them as well.
Thank you for that. That was amazing. So I want to ask the Vances, if I may, what are your impressions of this year's AAIC conference?
I think it's really excellent. I mean, it's not just the conference itself, but the time they allow. So you have pre-meetings where researchers, we come from all over the world to go to this, and the way it's been the past several years with COVID, the ability to see your collaborators in person, to be able to think outside a Zoom box is really, really amazing. And so that's been absolutely great. And that's part of the reason we encourage our students, our postdocs to come, because a lot of discoveries, a lot of ideas come out of those non structured moments through lunches, coffees, drinks, dinners, where you meet somebody that you didn't know, you find out what they've done, and you just start clicking together and coming up with new approaches, new ideas. And that, I think, we've sorely missed these last 2 years, and it is fantastic to have it come back. I also noticed since we're talking about inclusivity and diversity, there's been a big effort this year in inclusivity and making sure that the message that it's important to include everyone in the research, in the participation, let everybody know what's going on, and be completely open with all different groups, and that, I think that's been fantastic. Jeff.
Yeah, I would also agree that there's a lot more diversity this year than has been in the past. And it's not just in one group. I think we're seeing it in all different groups that in the past perhaps haven't really explored that, but now understand the importance of it. So that's been very, it's been very good. And I do think that it's important to bring students and postdocs. Not only do they get to see the people that they hear about and they get to learn, but it's important for them to see what they're part of. And the efforts for Alzheimer's are very much global. And I think people have to really appreciate how high, in the past, I've heard people criticize, that scientists don't collaborate. That's not the case in Alzheimer's, for sure. And we are collaborating all over the world. And so I think it's important for students to see what they're part of. And it's always good when you're doing work that sometimes gets tedious to understand where it's going and what the big picture is. And so that's one of the real important things, I think, for mentees and others to come to a meeting like this.
I could only just share the same sentiment. I've met a number of interesting individuals who not only are inspired about the research that we're doing, but inspired about helping the next generation achieve the goals that our mentors are doing today. And I think that's important for the physicians and leadership now to leave that legacy behind, so there is a roadmap for the next generation to continue in their footsteps, but also develop and find new areas and ways to advance what's been done, so we can continue to achieve that goal of a better, healthier world for everyone.
Thank you for that, Dr. Adams. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up I saw an article a month ago about you, Dr. Vance, regarding your new project that you're working on regarding international research in Africa. If you wouldn't mind, would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Well, as we've been talking about the importance of inclusion and diversity, we have a new study, I should say, or project coming on that just, I think, sort of is a prototype for that inclusion and diversity. We are going to be trying to recruit for participation and involvement in research 4,000 Hispanic Latinx individuals between New York and Columbia University in New York and University of Miami. We're also going to recruit 4,000 Black Americans, and that's going to be between University of Miami, Columbia University, Wake Forest University, and Case Western Reserve University. But I think the most interesting, one of the parts I'm most excited about is our collaboration with Dr. Rufus Akinyemi at the African Dementia Consortium in Africa. We have 9 countries and about 10 sites participating, and Dr. Akinyemi will be recruiting about 5,000 individuals across Eastern and Western Africa to participate in the research as well, which is really pretty important because, when we think of Caribbean Hispanic individuals, Black Americans who have some of their ancestral background from Africa, it's critically important when we start looking at these variants and these potential targets that we know their ancestral background, so we can have a better understanding of their function and how they contribute to Alzheimer's, either in terms of protection or in terms of adding to risk. So we're very excited about this. We're ready to get off and running, and we appreciate the opportunity, and we hope that this will be a model for inclusion across other groups.
Wow, that's super amazing. I just want to again thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk with us. And just know that the Alzheimer's Association greatly appreciates all the wonderful work that you're doing, and knowing that you are very big supporters of the Alzheimer's Association, and just want to once again thank you for your efforts and all that you do.
Thank you.